after several years.
Thank you.
And welcome back to Vancouver, because you have been in India for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But let me tell our viewers that you were born and raised in the West, born in England, and in Vancouver you have spent most of your youth life before going to India. And could you tell us a little bit more about your individual self so that people can connect with you before we start the interview?
Yeah, sure. So you basically summarized, I guess, my educational background. I was raised in the West, born in England, and I did my degree in kinesiology at SFU. I was very young when I started school, university. I was 16 years old. So a very enthusiastic student, scholarship, and did very well in my studies. And I finished after 5 years in kinesiology. And kinesiology, the degree took me to McGill, to Montreal actually, first and foremost. I was working there in the Canadian Space Agency for about a year. And then went on to do my studies at McGill in occupational therapy. And then was practicing occupational therapy for about 5 years. And during that time, many things happened, which I'm sure we'll probably touch base on. But it brought me to India in the recent past. I was there for 2 years, in fact, both as a yoga instructor and as a dancer and singer, because those were my passions which I pursued while I was there. So yeah, lots of
You won a scholarship to go to India to
That's
learn
right.
more music
Yeah,
and dancing.
That's right. It was called the Shastri Indo-Canadian Scholarship. And so they have an office in Canada and in India. And the whole basis of that scholarship is to promote people of Canadian origin to go to India and bring back the wealth of India to Canada after doing a certain number of months or years of studies there, whether it be in the fine arts or in sciences.
So as a professional, you had this door opener. It made you go to India to learn more about fine arts and all this. But what motivated you to leave this nice, comfy Western lifestyle, go to India?
Right.
You were working in Montreal area as an occupational therapist.
That's right. I think it's that fundamental question we ask ourselves at some point in our lives. I think many young working professionals do, and that's the question of, am I happy with what I'm doing? And am I pursuing the dreams that I really had ideals of when I was young? And time is ticking, and I'm approaching a certain age, and I want to make sure that I fulfill those dreams. So I think that was really the inspiration, was actually going through sort of the tough ordeals of the profession and realizing that, is this really what I want? And then waking up one day and saying, well, there's much more. And I mean, part of that quest is, I'm sure I can, for sure, actually attribute to the art of living and the practices that I've been doing in yoga and meditation that has helped me come to that point of saying that I want to pursue my dreams and at the same time guard my professional interests as well. So I took a 6-month stint to pursue the scholarship in classical Hindustani music and classical Hindustani dance, Kathak. And while I was there, I fell in love with the environment. I also got in touch with the international Ashram of the Art of Living Foundation in Bangalore, and found myself doing volunteer work as a yoga instructor in Bangalore, in the city and on the ashram grounds itself.
So what was your life like when you were in that ashram? How was your day, typical day in the ashram?
Yeah, it's really beautiful actually. I think something that I would hope that everyone can experience at least once in their lifetime. They have a very beautiful routine. It's starting early in the morning. At sunrise, people awake and go for yoga and meditation, and it's a beautiful grounds. And
it's a big, huge, sprawling complex.
Yeah, basically there's around, I believe, around 70 hectares of land, and that encompasses a number of different facilities. The one main facility there is the meditation hall, which was built in memory of Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, who's the founder's mother, when she passed away. So this huge meditation hall is a beautiful sight. It's the shape of a lotus, actually, and in that hall itself, the courses are given, meditation and yoga is practiced there. So the morning routine would be essentially going there to this beautiful...
common place for people to meditate.
Absolutely, it's called...
And also eat together. And I hear there was a hospital in that complex too?
Yeah, well, in the ashram grounds, like I said, one of the buildings is the Vishalakshi Mandap, which is the meditation hall. There's also a huge kitchen facility that can now facilitate up to, I think, 10,000 individuals. It's huge. And they have an Ayurvedic clinic and an Ayurvedic factory where they actually produce Ayurvedic medicines. There's numerous. There's Vedic school, and they have numerous other activities, a junior college, an Ayurvedic college, rural development program.
So coming from Canada, this is tremendous opportunity to learn about whole variety of aspects of Indian culture in there. You had this thing. Now, wasn't it there while living in Bangalore, you were also exposed to real poverty in India? Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, sure. Well, being sort of involved with the work through this NGO, the Art of Living, it took me to realize that, you know, my neighbors where I was living actually in a high-rise initially. Before going to the ashram, I lived in this 17-story building, surrounded by these high corporate, you know, organizations. But next door to me, there was this huge slum, which was inhabited around 300 families. And I used to look out. I had a lovely balcony with a lovely view of all of the nice buildings, and the architecture in Bangalore is magnificent. And then, if I looked below, there was this huge slum. And at night time, it was in the dark. There was no electricity, and the people there didn't have proper food and water supply. And it really shook me up after a time, because I wondered how many people in my building where I was living actually realized that 300 families, which were their next door neighbors, are in this situation.
Right next door.
Right next door. And if we are to pursue this dream of loving our next door neighbors as our own, then what prevents us from taking that step to reach our hand out to these people who need the help the most? And so that thought became into a sort of action of how is it that I could help? What is it that I have in my hands that I could do to at least service in some way? So a few friends got together who were also instructors in the Art of Living, from the Art of Living Foundation, and we went to the slum area, visited the people, and started doing some courses in meditation for the slum dwellers. And
this was entirely your own initiative?
Yeah, we just basically said, well, yeah, we'll go in and talk to the people. And they welcomed us with all their hearts, and probably more welcome than I would get my next neighbor in the building where I lived, which was really interesting. I mean, the first time I went to meet the people there, they invited me in, had tea, and, you know, they brought all their family in their little slum tent, and we had like a full, masti session, you know, with music and dholak.
And very relaxing, probably, at the end of the day, these people were in that mood.
Yeah,
so you got to know them from real close.
Yeah, and but the only thing what inhibited their spirit from coming alive or being known is these conditions that they live in. And that was what really struck me, was that vibrant spirit of rural people, of slum dwellers. How is that people can know about this, that they live celebration in their life. We, I think, in our modern world, strive to find what happiness is, and yet I found that these slum dwellers, to them it came very naturally. The only thing is that they're in impoverished conditions, and I think the sort of natural tendency to go towards dependencies of drugs and alcohol, being in that situation, has prevented them from really coming out in the open and showing their true self.
Must have really impacted upon you. For those of us who have been born and raised in India and live in the West, it's quite normal. But for somebody who has been raised in West, it is very unusual. So how did that experience, looking back, influence you?
Well, I think what I liked a lot about this experience was the fact that I was under guidance from the foundation, in the sense that they have had a huge amount of experience with working, adopting villages. And so they've come up with a very systematic way of reaching out to people from all walks of life, including, our slum dwellers to business, corporate level. So what I took away with me was that because it's not easy when you go into a setting like that, how is it that you can really, these were migrants from all over India that spoke several different languages. So how is it that you can really reach out to people? We set up a school where there were kids of all different age groups that were speaking all different languages, setting up a lunch program, meal programs for them. So how is it that you can reach out? So that capacity to really believe in the power of love, in the power of service, as being the sole communicator, really was what I took away with me, in that I would never have thought that possible, to be able to go into a place like this with just my Western upbringing and see that my love, or whatever I have within this body, that's housed in this body, this spirit, can actually ignite the spirit of others and can actually help them in a really fruitful manner so that they're getting the needs that they require.
So it gives you a new reference point to all your consciousness. It increases. And that way, this kind of experience is a very interesting experience. It stays with you.
Absolutely.
Now, you also were fortunate enough to be there in Bangalore, in that ashram, when they had their 25th anniversary.
Yes,
and you
that's
had
right.
2.5 million people who came to join. Tell us about it. How so many people could be brought together, entertained, dined, and exposed to the whole legacy of the organization. How did that occur, and how did it influence you?
It's funny. I never actually thought it would be possible. I was fortunate to be part of that whole celebration from day one, when we went to the airfield and it was this big barren land with a lot of snakes and high grass. And to believe that one world family, which was the theme, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, was a possibility. To believe that 150 nations from around the world could come together and meditate together and celebrate together was just an idea, basically, when it all started. But the process in how we all worked together as volunteers was the amazing, astounding phenomenon, I would say, prior to even the event itself. There were...
So all voluntary effort in organizing
complete
it?
volunteer effort. Over 10,000 volunteers were part of this celebration, and which in itself speaks volumes. And how that number of people with the same vision of bringing people together from all over the world, with feeling like we are one world family, was so evident and so much reality.
Well, all these individual synergies, when they combine together, it becomes a torrent.
It becomes the power of one.
So how was it in there with all these people with a common purpose? How did you feel?
Well, that's it. Well, I think that it was like a dream, because those months building up to that event, there was so much going on. Anywhere from musician rehearsals, like 3,800 musicians that were there on the actual celebration days. Anywhere from the 5,000 buses that were used, and the 40,000 hotels or school gymnasiums that were booked for the event. So that whole process leading up to that day was absolutely astounding. And then the actual days when it happened, it did feel like a dream, because everything, it was like clockwork. Everybody had their roles to play, and sometimes those roles would have to you were just you knew what you had to do on that day of the event, on those 3 days of the event. So it felt like everything was going really, really according to plan. And there weren't really any, troubles during the whole 3 days. That was what amazed me, that there was not even a problem with the transport, which you would think getting just into the vicinity, the facility of, and housing.
Now, all this was driven by one person's dream or vision, and that is Sri Sri Ravi Shankar.
That's right.
You refer to him as Guruji.
That's right.
Now tell me more about Guruji. Who is this person? What is his vision? What is his dream?
How can I speak about a guru? But what I can say is that he is teaching us how to love, and that love is really teaching us how to serve unconditionally, and to stretch beyond what our comfort levels are and reach our full potential. And anyway, he's just a reflection of our own being. You can't even separate yourself from him. It's just one with your nature and one with yourself.
So here is this dream and vision arising out of the mind of one person, has created this big, huge organization which is worldwide, and maybe we will need another interview to explore that vision.
Okay.
And thank you very much for sharing your personal experiences of living in that ashram.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Babeeta.
Thank you.